All right, so that's good. That's great on the structure. So just explain to me how it works then. I mean, because obviously with frameworks, we usually have direct award and further competition, but in this case we have this multidisciplinary approach as well.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
do you want to just run through that?
So in terms of the multi-dis aspect of it, where a client needs 5 or more services for a given project, so they might need, for example, a project manager, a QS, an architect, M&E, civils and structural consultants, that project by default goes to lot 1. What's important to stress there is that any of the other organisations that have been engaged in this project early on can be maintained and retained within that supply chain, but it then allows the client to have that flexibility to look at that wider supply chain, to be able to look at the wider throughput to meet their project's requirements.
So that supply chain and that collaborative thing is quite important. I mean, so the organisations on on the rest of the framework can work as part of a lot 1 supply chain, but I presume the lot 1 supplier and I guess other suppliers can involve SMEs in their
Correct.
supply chains.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And talking on SMEs, there is the supply chain is really key to delivering that solution and supporting the SME agenda. But also within the framework, we had appointed we'd allowed 2 spaces be reserved for SMEs throughout each of the lots in each of the geographical areas as well.
So each of the geographical lots,
Yep.
2 out of the, is it 6?
Out of the 6, yes.
So that's a third of the suppliers on it are SMEs only. So that's a very,
Yes.
we're sort of positively discriminating there for SMEs.
In essence, yes, we're allowing them to have that place. Not every single lot, not every single area has that, but we're allowed for that if that was the case of what was bid. There are instances where there are no SMEs because they didn't bid in that instance. So
okay, but that's good. I mean,
yeah,
that's
the intention.
That's a progressive way. So okay, so let's look at the other lots for a second. So there's 2 ways you can usually access a framework: direct award.
Correct.
And further comp.
Yes.
Do we allow for both of those?
We do. We allow for both direct award and further comp. And as we alluded to earlier, there is no maximum or minimum value for that direct award aspect or for the further comp aspect on there. On a direct award basis, the client is able to direct award to any of the providers within that given region for where they are appointing from. So long as it meets their internal governance at the client side, it's down to the client to make sure that they're happy with that process. And then with a further comp, we engage with all the providers at the outset and then whittle our way down depending on what the outcomes are. We'll talk about that a little bit further as well.
So we're providing that support for them. So I guess it comes into, the quality of our people, because a service, a highest level of support is something we pride ourselves on.
Yes.
So the quality of our people, the density, so in our delivery team and also in our procurement sort of teams and the framework teams. So what sort of qualifications do we have?
So across all of our procurement teams, and we MSIPs qualified to varying levels, from people going through level 4 at the moment. We've got quite a few people who are level 5 qualified and studying level 6. A good chunk of us are fully MSIPs qualified as well, both within the procurement and the framework team, and also within the delivery team. So we are procurement, very broad across board. It's important that we understand how we can talk to a client in that procurement language effectively, and understand the challenges that they face by having been through that. Quite a lot of our team are ex-procurement professionals from other areas in the past as well, so we've been through it and seen it on both sides of the fence. And then we're also NEC PM qualified as well, so we can, whilst we don't deliver the project, we understand the challenges that could be faced delivering that particular type of contract, and things to be considerate of as well around there.
Yeah, look, I don't think our peers in the framework land offer anywhere near the sort of support we do, and don't have the strength and depth in their people, and I think that's a credit to the way I think we sort of operate. Okay, let's just a big sort of developing point, and is probably going to continue, is social value.
Yes, absolutely.
So now with large construction projects, it's very often easy to focus on the social value because they're iconic or marquee. Yeah. How do we ensure social value is delivered in the smaller projects and across this services-based framework? So
the same premise applies through we monitor our social value aspect around that, but taking one step back, actually, at the start of the tender process, we embedded social value as 20% of that quality questions that we did. So we did 60% quality, 40% price.
So a third is on
So
social
a third
value.
of that was around social value. So it's really important to us that our providers understand and are engaged in delivering social value in one form or another. And then going further on, we'll talk around the KPIs, but we do monitor various aspects of social value. It also, through the framework, the providers are able to utilise our software Loop to be able to input and create a project within the software, create the relevant KPIs and monitor and measure those on an ongoing basis as well. And that's available to them free of charge through the framework.
So they use Loop right at the beginning now, because as part of our development of our tech platform,
Correct.
we're bringing it right to the front. So,
Yes.
so Loop is available to clients to do the forecasts, and then for the suppliers if they win that project.
Correct, yes.
And they may decide to upgrade and use Loop elsewhere as well.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
That. So.
And so they can look at the social value, the economic and the environmental.